you to this event organized in collaboration between the Global Policy Institute and Bay Atlantic University. My name is Paolo Fushira. I serve as president of the Global Policy Institute, a think tank research outfit associated with the university. I'm also a professor of political science and international relations here at the Bay Atlantic University. Pleased to have worked with our colleagues who do the mighty stuff, science and technology, information technology that we social scientists are very much in awe of because we understand nothing about it, but we understand it's very important. Technology drives the future, economic development, and all of those good things. So I'm sure all of you who study these matters will do great things. So I just wanted to say that we welcome Dr. Christopher Sokol to be kind enough to be with us this evening. And my good friend and colleague, Professor Greg Flew, will moderate this event. And of course, we also thank everybody who is joining us online at this. We try to make these events, which are primarily for the benefit of you here, the students, but also accessible to the outside public through our networks. And so hopefully this is something that has not only the immediate value of benefiting BAU students, but also the broader community. So I thank everybody. I thank the organizers. I thank my colleague Janice, who's been shepherding the process. Ray and Abdul, without whom we're dead because we're deaf and mute. So, Greg, I give it to you, and I'm sure we have a great meeting.
Yes. Well, as you know, for today, we have our guest speaker, Dr. Christopher Sokol. He's here to join us and talk about very vast topics about beyond the university. So this should be a very interesting topic, actually, to discuss about maybe possibly your future of what AI is going to be and those kind of things. And then he'll go over some other highlights, okay, for you as well. So without further ado, I would actually like to say thank you again, Dr. Chris, for spending the day and time with us, okay, for today. I know you have a busy schedule and you have a lot of work to do. But without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and start wherever you need to start for the Beyond the University for the title here.
Sure. Let me put this up and share the presentation here. Let's see. I haven't used Zoom in a while, so let me know if you see it correctly there. Is that coming up on your screen?
Yes, we see it. We see it.
Okay, fantastic. So, I realize now my camera and the screen are different, so I'm trying to give you eye contact, but I'll be reading my slides throughout the presentation here. And I'm glad you mentioned a few things in the introduction there too. I didn't have time to do a ton of research on the university here, but I heard international relations, I heard AI. Greg and I have some cyber background. You'll see a little bit about mine. I didn't want to make this about me, but I threw a little bit of me in their perspective because I think what my goal was today is here I am talking to a university in the DC area, students, I'm sure, variety of backgrounds and ages and where they're going. And so I tried to make this a little well-rounded, and I'll put my contact information in the chat here at the end if you guys want to go deeper into any specific topic. But my background touches on an awful lot of what I've heard already from you guys. But I did my career a little bit backwards. First of all these images I took from the internet some years ago and modified them. So there's very little in here that's copyrighted besides those images. But I wanted to just sort of put everything in perspective from where you are. What's going to happen? Some of you are probably going to graduate in May, and then every other year, every other term, depending on where you're at. Do you even like what you're studying? What can you do? What are the options? What is success for you? Success is very different. It's very personal for everyone. And as someone much later in life and career, I see that more and more. Everybody has their own perspective. So I'll give you a little tidbit about me just so you understand how I got some of this perspective. A few short stories to help to articulate what I have noted over time that sort of really show where people are and what they can do and how they do it. and a little simplified, but you'll get the gist of what it is and what you can do to go beyond and really the balancing act of what this is. And before I get into there, there's details I did not put in the briefing but just in hearing the introductory remarks, I see that I didn't put it in here, but I have over 2 decades of international relations work, international work, and it's just immensely important. Something you'll find, I think, as students in any class and the students in DC, where you get this great variety of people in. One of my favorite parts ever of this is that every conversation that occurs, just person to person on the low level here, I love the fact that people have to discuss a little bit their perspectives because from a different country, a different area, a different age group, a different state, words come across differently. And then when I've negotiated international agreements, when I've worked with other nations, my favorite part is the conversations that have to figure out what each other meant. Oh, person A said this. Oh, I think you meant this. No, I meant this. And that volley of conversation, it's the value of that international relations. It's a wonderful thing to experience, to go through, if that's your field, and it's just a lovely thing to witness when it goes to its robust conclusion, which I love. So you graduate or you're close to graduating. What are you going to have? You're going to have a piece of paper, right? That's really what it is. But what you should have is really a skill set that all the education you've had up to now should have put in you the foundational sets of information for you to be successful in that field, ideally. When I think about that, I think about a surgeon or an engineer, but it's the same for international relations. It's the same for cyber. You should have something to get started by, but it truly is just a start. And you have to decide what you're going to do with that journey. Do you just use that information and just, sort of rubber stamp your way through? Because it's fine if you do. A lot of people do that. Other people say, you know what, that was interesting, but I have this other tangent or facet that I found just immensely interesting. And you go off in that direction. Or do you generate new content? If you move to a doctoral program, you're trying to shoot the gap. You're trying to figure out what has not yet been discussed or proven, right? So you have to decide, what that's going to do for you. But that's coming up for some of you very, very soon, what to do when school is over, right? So do you even like what you're studying? So sometimes just getting done is enough. And you have to figure out different jobs, different majors. I know all of mine was a little bit backwards. I didn't do the school and then do the work. So mine was a little bit imperfect. And, different internships, different jobs. Do you like what you're doing more? So as you get deeper in, you start to figure out, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. And you'll find lots of folks that have a degree. I've got people on my teams now with degrees in biology, and they're doing program management, right? So don't let having the perfect match sort of stop you from moving forward, because having a piece of paper, that's proof to any employer that you could be given the maximum amount of burden and hurdles, and you still did it, regardless of what that is. And that says a lot, because there's people that don't get there. So you got to get there, right? But you got to know, are you trying to grow? Are you really dreading it? You know what you're feeling there, and that's what should guide you in what you're doing beyond that. So you got to know if you're liking it. So what are some options there? Everybody knows you can do internships, and that's really good experience. It's common to get picked up from the company you interned with. You can get direct hired into a company, federal or government otherwise. You might start your own company. That's kind of challenging. I joined the military. Some people take a gap year and just live with family. So you sort of need to know what you want to do, know what support systems you have, because not everybody has the same support system, right? So, and then you have to decide, am I going to do more? Am I going to have more school? Can I afford more school? Is whatever I'm going to do pay off my student loans if you had those, right? Big, huge choices there. And every single person has a different scenario. Their family situation is different. Their money situation is different. So I could never nail down for everybody in one briefing what to do, right? So, but you have to ponder all these different aspects of what is within your realm of what you can do. All
So
right.
Dr. Chris,
So
real
yes.
quick, Doctor, sorry, can you hit the enable editing button on your PowerPoint because we still just see the question slide there.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
All
put
right.
it in mode.
Is it better if I leave it? Let me I can just share the whole screen instead, and that way
Yeah,
you'll.
if you don't mind just sharing the whole screen, yeah, that'd
Sure,
probably
sure.
be.
Let me know. So we can. Are you seeing
There we
slides?
go.
Are they coming
Yes,
through
we do
now?
now. Yeah. Yep, they're coming through now. Yep. Yep.
All right. So you guys were imagining all these slides. All right. So we talked about what you're going to, do you like what you're studying, what the options are? I'm sorry. Yeah. You should let me know sooner there.
Yep, my bad. I'm
Um,
sorry. Sorry about that.
Yep, just walking through that, but you get to ponder all these different things, right? So you got to sort of figure out, and hopefully, Greg, I'll send these to you. You're welcome to share them with the class. They're not the most informative in there, but if you want them, you're welcome to have them.
Sure. Yeah. If you can please, yes, if you could please send me that too. I'll give them a PowerPoint on that so they have a copy at least of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this points to here. I'm a student. I'm trying to figure out what does life look like for me. Is the degree it? What's the pinnacle thing you're trying to accomplish? Is it the next degree? Is this one really just a stepping stone? One degree is fine. No degree is fine. If you want to work in a factory your whole life, it's a good, honest living, right? So it's what do you want? It took me till my 30s to get a degree. So take your time. Make choices as you want. Is the job the success? Is it getting the job? Is that the pinnacle, or is it type of work, the mission that you're doing? You could join the Peace Corps and be happy, make almost no money, and save some part of the planet, right? This is your personal success. Whatever's driving you, right? You have to think about that. Does your work lead to a legacy of change? Are there things you have done that have saved the world? I got a ton of stories. We don't have time for them, but I can tell you all kinds of different things that have come across my desk and my workspace that affected nations. And it puts you in an interesting spot, and you get to decide, what kind of person you are, what you want to do, how you want to help those nations, et cetera. Right. So think about that. It's your definition. What I think is success doesn't matter, because that's just for me. It's what do you think success is for you? Sometimes getting through a day is success. Sometimes being a parent is success. All of this is okay. It's all your choice, and you're allowed to make that choice, right? So it's up to you. But you got to think about whatever your end state goals are. I never really had a vision board. I don't write things on my walls, but I think about them all the time. And whatever mechanism works for you, use that mechanism, because you better than I know you, right? Of course. So map it out. You can't just look at it. You got to take steps to get there, right? You have to know what you want to do, and you have to decide your confidence level. You can have a vision of completing school and not be that confident about it, but still move forward, right? So the confidence is just going to help motivate you if you've got it. And if you don't have a lot of confidence in that vision, then maybe it's something else, right? I've had a lot of different things in my career. You'll see in a second, and there's a lot of things that you get to change. If you don't like where you're headed, if you don't like what you're studying, if you don't like where the degree is taking you, make some changes. You get to do that. It's a beautiful thing. So some people want to stay put. Some people just want to work hard and do that. Nothing wrong. Some people want to climb the ladder. Some people want to own the business. These are all decisions you get to make, right? Takes capital, takes logic and thinking and planning. So I just want to build a little one slide journey so you could see how I approached life, right? So I'm a kid, I'm 13, work permits, landscaping. I'm trying to do this like in a minute so I don't bore you to death, right? You guys aren't offering me jobs today, right? So landscaping, pharmacy work. And as a kid, I did fast food. I worked in the coal mining industry, went to college at 17, worked in the cafeterias, did restaurants, dropped out of college. Money, time, resources didn't pan out for me, right? 22, real estate license, didn't use it. I wanted the knowledge. Joined the military. I was still working restaurants. Got into satellites, okay, for a bunch of years now. Then I went to ITT and Excelis as a contractor. The blue means that's when I got my bachelor's. ITT helped pay for the rest of my school that I didn't finish. Lovely company, covered it, right? Was then a federal employee, worked for Strategic Command out there in Omaha. got my master's while I was out there, all after the fact. None of these degrees were really helping me because I already had the job, right? Joint Staff J6 at the Pentagon, and then for the FAA. At the FAA is where I got my doctorate. And even so, it's in cybersecurity, but I don't really work in cybersecurity, right? But what a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate does for you is it gives you credibility, all right? And the things you learn in the process, I apply those in the work world. I go to my leadership and say, hey, leadership, I noticed this problem. I did some research. Here's an intro to the problem. Here's my working through the problem. Here's my conclusions. And here's 10 or 15 references from scholarly sources. And now I hand that to my work and say, do with it what you will, right? Over on the right there, you can see sort of my, in the two boxes, my lineage of work. Satellite controllers, was in the Army, did satellite subject matter experts, analysts, Space and Missile Defense Command, Strategic Command, Joint Staff at the Pentagon, FAA, and now I'm doing Director of Programs, right? So I've sort of been all over the place. I used to give a bunch of federal jobs seminars to people to help them get the federal government. Right now, probably not the hottest commodity, right? But there was a time when it was, and so I bounced around and I accidentally got all kinds of jobs. I was interviewing for practice. I don't want to say for fun because I was trying to figure out the system, but these were just mechanisms that I would use to do a better job at interviewing, and accidentally landed jobs, right? So I guess that was working out. So I turned that into a seminar, and I'll offer that to you too. But I was getting all my degrees after the fact. I didn't get the degree and then do the work. I somehow got the work and then figured I'd best get a degree to make my job feel like they hired someone with credentials, right? So I have a little bit of a backwards journey there. All right, so a couple of quick stories here for perspective, and you'll see why they're useful. So in my satellite time, had a lot of time with engineers that literally, I know the Lockheed team that was on the original design team that built and launched the Discus satellites in the early 70s, military communication satellites. And I met them in the early 2000s, and they were still engineers on that program doing amazing new things with very old hardware that it was never supposed to do. And so this is a perfect example of a group of people not really changing jobs and getting deeper and deeper and deeper into expertise over time. In a 2-second story, for example, when satellites get old, they start to not point very well at their Earth. And these guys wrote code, I think, on 16 kilobytes of RAM to make the reaction wheels in the satellite aim better. Little things like this, right? So that's an example of an engineering team that never changed jobs, that got better and better and better on the same program for decades. One of my friends was a satellite planner, planning missions on the satellite. So if you think about it, as a ship moves around or as the military forces move around, you got to make sure the satellite can see them, because some of those footprints for the satellite are shapeable, things like this. And so he was the kind of guy, his phrase was solder the board. Every day, I just want to come to work, I want to solder the board, and I want to go home, right? He didn't want anything lingering on his conscience. He didn't want to work to crack open a laptop at home. When he was done, he wanted to be home. We never did any soldering, but that was his analysis of it. And at some point through in the few years I knew him out there, I was working in Hawaii at the time, he accidentally got promoted. They were converting from one pay system to another, and they gave him a higher pay grade, which was a mistake. And they said, well, do you want it? Because we'll let you have more responsibility and earn that pay. He says, no, I'm a solder the board guy. I just want to keep my pay and just do my thing. And they called him after that the mistake, because they had to pay him because they made a mistake. Funny scenario, but it gives you an idea of where he was. He was happy. His wife worked at the bank. They had a 2% loan on their house in Hawaii. Life was pretty sweet, right? He didn't want to change anything. I get it. And you already sort of heard some of my stories for bouncing around, but that gives you a few different layers of what you can think about as you ponder how your future will be, what your life is like, what you want to do with your career, with your work, with your life, right? And there's a million other options, of course, clearly, but this gives you some framework to look at that. So how do you get beyond university? You get this degree, you really have to learn about yourself. you have to think, am I a one job person? Do I just want that stability? Nothing wrong with it. It's a great thing. I know a lot of factory workers that have a great living. They love life. They're fishing. They're raising their kids, and they're just, everything is perfect. It's what they want. If it's what you want, I'm on board. Do you want to move up? I'm on board. You know, what do you love or hate to do? Focus on that. If you have a lot of power, people don't exercise the power that they have. I've lived in Europe for 8 years. I change jobs whenever I feel like it, you know, because if something is, I don't like it, I change it, right? I'm on my 5th or 6th forever home, right? You get to do what you want in this world. But this takes you studying yourself. Really think deep about what you like, what you don't like, what you want for your life. If you don't know yet, ponder those decisions. You have to really think about what you want. Sometimes you can let the work lead you there. Like I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm almost retired. So you know, really take it all in. You can be as flimsy and as flaky as I am, or you can be as stable as you want. It's to your preference, and only you know what the answers are. But talk to everybody, see what they did, see if you like it, see if it resonates with you. Emulate, don't emulate. This is absolutely up to you. So so it's your future. You get to decide what to do with it as best you want. And this is the balance, right? The balance of this whole thing is, if you're really on one side of this and you want to go deep and be just the world premier expert, I know some of them. I know some true geniuses, and they're amazing to work with, right? But you might want someone who knows everything about something. I know some of these folks too, right? So decide who you are, figure that out, and then go chase that dream. So don't be afraid of the change, and make it happen. It's the world doesn't just hand you things on a platter. You know, I put my roof on my last house. I changed the clutch on my car if I have to. I've done so many things, it's crazy. So decide what your fortes are and go get them, right? Embrace that beyond. So that's what I got. I'll pop this here in the chat in a second, but I'm happy for any questions you have. And I will say, I know he mentioned AI too. I didn't know they were going to intro with this. On the AI side of that, I can tell you how I use that now on a daily basis, and it's only mildly helpful. So who I'm with now pays for an AI service. I'm sure I can't say the name, and I use it. I try to use everything with it to try and do, I don't want to call them menial, but less than exciting tasks. You know, I'll give you an example. We have to give the government on big projects everyone's resume in a standardized format. Well, all people give you their resumes in whatever format they did it. So I try to get AI to ingest the data and spit it out all in the same format. And then, of course, you got to go back and check it out. I have AI find files. We have an immensely complex network, and I can use the AI to go find things that the Windows search features take forever. So somehow this AI is a lot faster. I use it to digest. I got a 2,000 page document from the government in like 3 days to consume it and regurgitate things we needed. So I use AI to pour through just enormous documents. And it is literally funny how I say, okay, person X, I used AI to extract this 2 or 3 page set of responsibilities out of this 2,000 page document. Go double check it, and then we go back to the bot and we ask it more questions, and it begins to get defensive. So AI isn't perfect, at least the one that we have, but it's really fun to try and play with. And then I heard international on the other side. So on the international front there, get involved with organizations. If you have to volunteer, you know, I don't know where you know, it's embassies, it's organizations, it's groups that are trying to benefit the international situations. You know, we may not have USAID anymore, but there's lots of groups that do not just events, but it provides support for different nations in a lot of different ways. Get involved, because when you get involved, I mean, you're here, a lot of you are here in DC directly. You can go to actual events, you can meet people, you can shake hands, you can get an email address or find them on LinkedIn, and you begin to build your own personal network of either the experts or at least associates in the field of that you're trying to get into, that your degree might be for. And you can use that to begin to get a foothold and launch your career. So the internet's great, but you're in DC. If you're in DC, you can walk in and meet people and shake their hand. When I worked at the Pentagon, I would go And I replaced a guy who was gone and no one knew what he did. And I had to research my job. And so I showed up and I knocked on doors and said, "Hi, Charlie used to work with you." They said, "Who are you? And why'd you knock on my door?" We never met Charlie. We worked with him for 20 years in the same building, right? So don't be that person. Go meet people, shake their hands, see them face to face, especially international relations. There's nothing like being in the room and seeing the body language of the other side of the table resisting what you're saying or the openness of what they're saying. And that's really hard to get. I'm doing the best I can to show you on the camera, right? And so take all that stuff to heart, really think about it, and go with your gut, see where it takes you, ask questions. And if you, as a last resort, but if you want, reach out to me. And even if I don't have the answer, I can help you try and find things that'll get to the answer. I'm happy to do it. But that's what I got for you, Greg and team. And let me pop this in the chat so you have it, and I'll email the slides to you there.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Chris, for your knowledge and then wisdom to share with us today. We will actually be going on the question and answer session. So we're gonna have some students ask you some questions, either online or here in the class, and they can, if you can please help me answer them the best you can for that.
Yep. Speak loud though. That microphone is quiet, so do your best to be loud.
Sure. We'll do. So, guys, you need to ask questions, right? Through Dr. Chris. He is here to answer whatever that is. Can you hear that or no?
Yep, I hear you fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this a little bit.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you have anything online?
I'm looking at the chat now just in case.
Okay.
Give us some time to bring their questions.
Yeah. Let them sink in and let them ask.
And for anybody scared to ask too, you got my email now. You can email the question later. Happy to answer that on the side. I'm trying to see if it'll let me put the email in the file in the chat there. It might not. No.
All right.
Thank you for your knowledge in that presentation. I just wanted to ask, in your experience, what is the best way to, through internships, kind of get your foot in the door with regards to in terms of cybersecurity jobs?
I didn't hear all the words. The best way to find internships and civilian jobs?
Yes, basically, yeah, kind of get your foot in the door through internships.
Yeah. So I think most schools that I've seen have, at least the ones I've seen, that they call them a handshake. They have a resource where you can log in through the school and you can create a profile, and the school has sort of pre-negotiated relationships with different companies, and then those schools, and not by default, but in a much more organized manner, those schools allow the students to make their way to those companies and at least have those summer internships. But I would here's my overall and general advice for you. I think there are too many platforms out there and there are too many ways to find it, but I think you have to take it all in at once. Like you might have to set up an Indeed profile and a LinkedIn profile and a ZipRecruiter profile. And if you have specific organizations that you find advertise on some other third or fourth or fifth profile that you think you'd be interested in. So I would say try and figure out what 5 or 6 organizations represent the kind of work you want to do, and then figure out where they advertise, which platforms, and therefore you can sort of find the backwards mechanism to get in. and I do other gently, quietly, sneaky stuff. I'll give you an example. When I'm super interested in work. So, and I'll give you one example. So, an FFRDC, a federally funded research and development center, is the kind of government-sponsored organization that they do research, they do analysis, they do call it all kinds of interesting things, and aerospace is one of them. MITRE is one of them. There's a whole bunch of names. Volpe is one of them. I think there's 15 or 16 FFRDCs. And if you go to, for example, if any of you are tied to military or know folks with clearances, you can go to clearance jobs, you can find their profiles, you can get an email, and you can email people directly. You don't have to, I mean, you do go wind up through the straight HR process to get hired or to move in, but when you've got access to an email of a real person, that's much more direct. And so I literally will type emails directly to people. And so the other part there is, if you know, I mean, again, you are in DC, you have so much available to you from a metro or a bus ride or a quick train ride or an Uber if you have to, or a scooter. So show up, put on the best that you have and go there and knock on doors and say, hey, you have some interesting work you do here. I'm a student in the field. How do I get started? And they might just point you to some standard things, but I don't know if it's 1 or 10 or 2 out of 10. They might let you in and sit you down and talk to you. And so in international relations, you want to do that. From the IT, from the AI side, I mean, what is right across the street from you guys? You got Amazon that just built a headquarters down here in DC, right? So what I hear about Amazon is, everybody that leaves Amazon says it's the best work I ever did, and I don't ever want to work there again, or it's the worst work I ever did, and I don't ever want to work there again, because they might burn you out, right? They have high expectations, and that's standard for a big corporation. They're going to want everything out of you. They want to get every dime out of what they spent on you. So my overall advice is multiple mechanisms. One is not going to cut it, because and the federal job system was an example of that. I think in one of my presentations in my seminar for that, I had a screenshot of my profile walking people through how to do things, and it showed that I had applied to 178 positions. And I know it was in the past 18 months. They didn't know that necessarily, but that gives you an idea of how frequent, if you're really looking for work hard and you're not putting in 1 or 2 applications per day or making contacts, it can be really hard sometimes, and it can take a lot of effort. If you try to build the one perfect resume for the one job and you apply once a month, you might never ever get hired, right? It can happen. Being perfect will get you there, but it might take a long time. So a little bit of a sort of a broad shotgun spread approach, as much as you can, as often as you can. And in international relations, you want the personal touch. So if you know the person's name, don't say hello recruiter, say hi Mike or Bob or Debbie or whatever it is. So you have to have the right air about you for the work that you're going into, and you have to sort of know that audience. Is that helpful? Any other questions on that one?
Yes. Some of us have troubles to be around people who express their ideas freely around them. We can call it introverts. So for those people who find it very hard to build connections outside of their comfort zone, what would be your advice?
Oh, yes, introverted. Well, so my assumption is that an introvert would chase a job that is typically introverted. Um, but I think the part that's going to make that hard is they're probably still going to want to interview you. And in these days, as I am here now with you, if you don't turn your camera on, I think, and you don't present yourself, I think that's one of those hard things you're just going to have to face. That, at least that part of it. I know I wanted to get over stage fright and public speaking. And so for a bunch of years, I went out to open mic nights and I played guitar in front of audiences, sometimes for 2 hours. Right. And so my recommendation is, find something that you think you can tolerate, that's leaning towards the extroverted side, and use that to work on yourself. You're not going to want to do everything. I have friends and family that are introverted, and that they would be home all day reading a book and not talk to anybody and be happy as a clam, right? So So my recommendation is to find some things that are right on the edge that you can do, even though you're uncomfortable, but you're willing to do, and start with those, and then try to broaden that tool set of things so that the more time you spend outside your comfort zone, the more comfortable you'll be there. It's practice, right? And so to practice, you have to start. And so find the best mechanism for you to start and then work your way through it. That would be my advice.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, Dr. Chris, I don't know why they're so shy over here, but they should be a few more. Just need a few more, and then we'd probably be calling it a session here. Because I know it's getting a little late for you there, so we're just gonna have a few more questions, and then we should be good to go. Okay.
Sure.
I feel like it was
Just
a
no
nice
math problems.
Yeah, don't worry. There's no math problems here. Don't worry. Don't worry. No.
presentation that's
We need
very-
a microphone. Like, maybe she can sit here because the two microphones.
Tom?
I don't have a question, actually.
She just wants to make a remark.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a remark, like, I feel like it's just something that was like an information for us to be taking the next step for our careers, so it's pretty straightforward and pretty standard to like what even the professors and our supervisors have been guiding us. I think from the beginning of our degree, since we are international students, so these are the advices that we have been getting since the beginning of our academic career. So I feel like that's why we don't have as much questions, because we've been asking these to our supervisors, professors, like throughout these 2 years, I believe, that we have been studying here. That's why. So I think
Yeah.
now is the time for us to practically implement what we have been.
It is, and there's a lot of ways to do that too. I know for not everybody wants to join the military, but if you do, then you can immediately put in request to duty stations overseas, and you don't always get exactly where you want, but you get to immersed in a culture. You learn about their language and their food, and here for the whoever's the youngest. I mean, and when you look at the trajectory of life, the longer that you live, the more obligations you have typically, which would keep you from traveling freely, like all the way up until retirement, right? So I lived 8 years in Germany. I got to 19 countries in my time over there. My wife has lived in Portugal and Japan with me, in Germany and Hawaii and Omaha. And so when you're young, I know when I was in college, I could move with 2 boxes and a big trash can. Everything I owned could fit in all that, and I could just pick up and go somewhere. And that's very easy. Everybody in the young age doesn't have a ton of money to do that, but you're also not moving a lot of things. You're sort of agile at the younger age, and that gives you an opportunity to do a Peace Corps job, to sign up for something and be somewhere for a year or 2 years in a country maybe you didn't hear of, or maybe you never thought about going to. But that's superb experience. If you probably everybody in the room is working on a second language, I imagine. But to go to the country and to really pick up that second language, ich war in Deutschland für 8 Jahre, and jedes Wochenende mit meinem Nachbar ein bisschen Bier trinken, right? My best thing ever is to go learn some other language and go share a beer with a neighbor, right? And so I absolutely recommend it at the age that you are, and the flexibility that you have in life. Find a way, if you can, to jump with an organization. Sometimes they cover room and board. Sometimes all the situations are different, but that opens the door, and that looks superb on a resume in an international relations field. If you've lived in multiple countries and you know multiple languages, and you get involved with organizations that are being helpful to other countries or other conditions and situations, none of that is negative. That's exactly what you want on the resume. And probably in the process of 2 or 3 or 4 years of that, you'll find what it is you love about it, and then you'll have a much higher confidence in the direction that you want to go. I recommend that highly. Thank you for the comment.
Do I have to use this one or?
Good.
Okay, hi. I have a question about the CVs because I know nowadays, like most of the recruiters and companies, as you mentioned, are using AI tools to review CVs. So like from your perspective, if there's like any a strategy or any trick that at least our CVs can like pass the filters and at least a recruiter can actually see our CV and reaches us.
Yep, I think I could learn a little more about how the AI goes through it because the one thing the AI is not going to look at, not really, is formatting, right? So what that means is the AI is really going to focus on what words are in the resume, and there's things you can ask AI, and I would recommend trying it from multiple platforms. And I don't know how familiar everyone is with AI in the room. I hope more than me. However, something that it doesn't seem to be common knowledge about AI systems is that they have to be fed, they have to be trained, and then whatever platform that is, you're only going to get out of it what's in it. So my recommendation is to figure out what platforms you have access to and figure out what it's been fed, because if you don't know what it's been fed, then you don't have as high a confidence in what it's going to provide you. And so based on that, um, I think you can use AI to come up with better, I'm going to call them buzzwords, but they might be phrases, they might be sentences, they might be concepts. So I don't know all the ways that it can pick better words for you, but I know better words are going to be important. But the other thing you can do manually is the look and feel of the resume. You are selling yourself. You're conveying. In fact, I want to show you something just to make the point. Don't tell my wife. Hold on. So I'm going to give you an example of something I did because the year was mid 1990s, and I said my resume is not standing out. It's not doing anything for me. It's not doing what I want. And I was working in restaurants, and so what it did was I made my resume a menu. Right. So the entrees are the main course, and the starters are the little things about me. Desserts are like the icing on the cake. Every menu has a story or something. So there's recommendations on the back, and it was the menu of life and vocation, right? So the useful part of that for you is and the thing that made me think about doing this back then was I saw a guy who was in the baseball industry, and he made his resume a baseball card. It was him. It was his qualifications all in one baseball card. It was the industry. It was perfect for that. Now, I don't know how that's going to translate to AI or how it's going to translate to international relations, but you have to think that way. You have to find a way to what can I do to make that resume? I wanted this to stand out in a stack of papers. If you saw 600 resumes and you saw this, you would be like, what is that? Right? So you have to find a way to do what you're doing that makes it jump up and down and scream, pick me, pick me, pick me. Right. And so that resume, as simple as you can make it and as direct as you can make it. My government resume is 19 pages. No one wants to read that. But the government resumes scan for keywords. And if I didn't have POTS, POTS, plain old telephone system in there, I might run the risk I didn't get found. So I think having the most common words, the most necessary words is what AI would help you get to. I use that when I'll ask AI, what is the highest visibility hashtag for LinkedIn for a systems engineer, for example? And it'll spit out 20, and I'll say, give me 10 more. Okay, give me 10 more, whatever. And you can pour through those and decide. So for the resume, try to find a way to really, really make the statements about yourself and really make it unmissable. So whoever, when it finally gets to a real human, they cannot mistake who you are and what you're going to do for them and how awesome you're going to be. If you can do that, then you're going to get the job. And then the other part is practice. Resumes, practice interviews, practice all this stuff with friends, with family, anybody who will listen to you. because I hope I sound like I'm free talking, and I hope I'm not talking too much, but you have to find the balance for whatever the issue is, and whatever the job is, and practice with friends so that you come across a little bit seamless. Because if you're a little clunky and a little disjointed, they'll see that, and you don't want to be that. Not in the international realm. You want to be as smooth and seamless as you can be.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, wait, we gotta.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. One more question.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes. Good question. Yeah. So I wanted to know about some challenges that we're all about to begin our career after the graduation. So, would you like to kindly discuss from your past experience that when we are gonna, purge into our career, like doing internship or getting a full-time job, what would be the most common challenges that we might face, and if there's some strategies that how can we overcome them, like since we're the beginners, so we are not yet experienced, so we don't even know what challenges we might face. So if you could give us some suggestions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a great, these have all been great questions, by the way. So thank you for all these great questions, and thank you for your question. I think that, I think early on, I mean, I know you're all students and you're probably sick of reading, but you're right now, you're about to embark on a very special career, a very specific career, whether it's AI or international relations or beyond. Here's what I think. I think that the most important thing is there is always foundational, fundamental, elemental policy, both like on the world stage for the cyber side, for the IT side, for the AI side, for the international side. I think you have to really dig in, figure out your focus area, dig in and understand the basic policy. When I read basic policy on something, I'm not going to read it twice. I read it, and as I read through it, I highlight it. I use Microsoft Edge on a PDF because it's free, and I will use it and add notes in it. And that way, every time in the future, when I refer to that, I'll go to the top of the document, it might be 800 pages, and build my own baby table of contents up there to point to the 3 or 5 or 10 sections that I highlighted, because you don't want to read all 800 pages again, and you don't want to flip through. As I read it, I highlight it. So my recommendation is to get in there, get that. It's grunt work. You're going to grunt your way through all that policy, understand it, because you cannot be an expert without knowing how 1 + 1 = 2. You got to start from the ground up. So get familiar, get used to it, because here you are, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years in a meeting. You want to be able to look at your boss, look at the team, look at the folks around you, and say, we have to do whatever our thing is this way because the policy says we do this, the norms say we do this. You want to have that whole picture of why we're doing it, because people are going to forget. We live in a world where academics are getting fewer and fewer, it seems. And you have to not just do it because you like it, you have to do it because you have guidance that explains how and why you do it. And if you start from there, you're going to quickly become the expert in the room and in your field. And people are going to come to you because they're going to say, hey, tell me more about this. And you'd be like, let me go back to that document I highlighted 5 or 7 or 10 years ago, this policy. And here's why we believe this. And you're going to have it. It's going to be fresh in your mind. And you get to keep that copy. It's yours. Now, beyond that, here's how I love to stand out. And I have 10 examples that we won't get into, but I'll give you the concept. You're going to be at your job, and every day your job is to move this from here to here, and you do it. And the next day you move it from here to here. Right. So you're doing your daily, whatever they set you up to do. And you get good at that. And now you have spare time. Okay. Because you understand it. You know what the pattern is, whatever it is you're doing. Then you begin to say, what else can I do quietly to yourself? What else can I do that is going to help me make the whole process we're doing better? And I'll just give you the sort of the titles of some of the things I've solved. I'm at the Pentagon. It's a 953-page document that is PDF'd and not OCR'd. It is an image file, and it's an image file that is outdated, and no one knows how to update it, and they can't do it. And they have the call signs that we use when we are calling our allies or our friends in war, and it's missing data, right? And so I took it upon myself to fix this. The knowledge team people couldn't help. Microsoft couldn't help. No one could help. And so I took 6 months of my own time on the side, and I quietly and gently fixed it, because from my perspective, if we have the wrong call signs in a military operation and someone is calling the wrong call sign, we might have a fratricide incident and people might die. So for me, it was the right thing to do morally. It was the right thing to do generally. And I took it upon myself to go fix this thing. And now for the rest of my life, it's a talking point in a resume bullet of some Herculean, enormous task that no one could or would do. And you begin to make a name for yourself. And I've got 10 more stories. So for any one of you in the room, as you're in your daily churn, you're 6 months or 2 years in your job, start to think about things you can do that no one else wants to do. Maybe it's horrible, maybe it's hard, maybe they don't know how to do it. Go and figure it out, and make it awesome. And all of a sudden, you got resume bullets, you got people knocking on your door. The Pentagon calls me back every few years and asks me to go help them do something else with that, right? So you become an expert in the field, and that makes you valuable, and it makes you respected. And yeah, what more do you want, right?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. If I sit on. Is it on? No, it's not.
Let me take a look.
Yes. I think that was really well put. If I would like to add something, that obviously is some based on great experience, and I don't know if it adds anything to the very elaborate explanation. I would say very simple, especially when you get started. You know, you are, to answer your question, your first job, your internship, whatever, be flexible, always available. Never look, oh, do I really have to do this? No, well, that's difficult. You know, you are always there, you're always available. You know you're making an investment, as our distinguished guest says, make yourself noticed by being flexible, available, studious, and the rule has to be this. It's pretty trite. Under promise, over deliver. Always. This has to be your guidance, because indeed that's the way people notice you. People say, oh, this person, smart, available, always there, always on time. First one in, last one out. This is the kind of person we want. This is the kind of person we like in our organization. This is the kind of person who wants more responsibility. You know, so I kind of, I'm rephrasing a little bit what you already said in a rather elaborate fashion. That is, it's really important, regardless of the field of endeavor you are, it doesn't matter. But really, you have to be, again, I stress this, flexible, adaptable, available, and quite frankly, cheerful. It matters. You do something with a smile on your face. People don't want to see somebody in the office say, oh, this person, well, always in a bad mood, you know, whatever. They want to seem like they're not. It sounds silly, right? It sounds silly, but it isn't, because these are the human qualities that people ultimately appreciate, on top, obviously, of your expertise, knowledge, and actual contribution to the organization. But it's do more, dig out things that you haven't been asked to do, but you believe are useful, as he just explained regarding this complex calling codes for NATO countries or whatever other allies done at the Pentagon. So you may find your own code to update or upgrade. Volunteer things, and yes, it's extra time, extra effort, probably for little or no pay, right? But that's how you build your resume. And this is how you build people who are networks and people who are willing to write letters of recommendations for you as you move on to the next level, to the next job, to the next job interview, to the next, graduate school application, whatever you will do. So I'm just adding a little corollary to what's already been said. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. So one more question from Abdul.
Hello, Doctor. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. First off, thank you very much. We really learned a lot. I mean, there's a question that I want to ask, and I would like for you to please indulge me because it might be different from what you might have talked about. So, like Greg might have told you, everybody in this class is in the field of cybersecurity and information sciences, and we are all international students. And pretty much everybody in this room probably has like cybersecurity plus cybersecurity certificates. But one of the biggest issues we're having is most times when you apply for jobs, they ask you, "Hey, do you have like your green card, or are you a citizen?" So I guess the question is, how do we like handle or prepare ourselves for challenges like this? Because given the field we are in, nobody really trusts you if like you're an international student. They don't want to give you jobs because they know you have access to a lot of very, classified or highly classified information and all that. And it makes it a little bit difficult for people in the field of cybersecurity. So yeah, what advice would you give to us?
Yep, I had a top secret clearance for 25 years, and it's hard to get, it's hard to maintain, and the system that works in makes it difficult. You get a speeding ticket or one DUI or anything negative on your record, you can pretty much kiss that goodbye. So your lifestyle has to be just perfectly straight and narrow, as straight as an arrow as possible. Um, I think once you become, I said, people that apply and get green cards and wind up with citizenship over time can still do it. It's a much harder path. I helped one of the other students at Marymount gain his citizenship because at some point he had to come back and ask for referrals and references from other citizens. And he knew me from multiple years going together in school. And so, I have to write an honest letter. This is the guy who wrote cybersecurity solutions for entire countries. I thought he was an absolute shoe-in to be helpful to our country, right? And so I helped him with that letter because I knew him and I'd studied with him a lot, and we had to, months worth of conversation. So there are mechanisms. There's also like I think it's the H-1B visa program. I tried to help some other students out with that, and it's a very complicated, difficult situation. But what the good side was about this is that there are numerous companies that specifically spend money to sponsor non-citizens to come and do work. And so and what I liked about that was that, and I couldn't find it for you today, but there were tables that broke out what the work is and how much you should be paid, because what that let non-citizens do was come here, be sponsored by, and I'll just pick Amazon. I don't remember if that's one of them, but these were big company names that you would recognize. Those big companies will sponsor your work and will pay you an established amount of salary based on this pre-approved list. And the beauty of this is that you don't have to argue for at least a decent salary. Starting IT jobs, at the time I was looking, which was 4 or 5 years ago, were 75, 80, $90,000 a year, which is, it's not the most money in the world, but it's enough to put food on the plate and get a small place, right? So find those documents that break out what the jobs are and how much they get paid and what the companies are that are sponsoring people. Some of them sponsored thousands of people per year. And my recommendation is to look that information up, find that out, and go start knocking on the door of that company. Email and phone calls. If it's Amazon, walk up and say hi, right? and figure out what they can do for you and what you can do for them all at the same time. Because it looked to me like the mechanism was there. Now, how swamped they get and how many requests they get, I don't know. But this is where your resume and your accomplishments, if you have to intern over and over and over, and if you have to live with 8 people in the house or whatever it takes to keep your bills down and keep either volunteering your time or interning or taking sometimes the lower paying job to get your foot in the door, those are the sacrifices that I think can be worth it in the long run. But to me, until you have the citizenship, that H-1B visa looked to me like the most regulated and standardized mechanism to at least get you a reasonable amount of pay. And at that point, now you've got bullets on your resume and you can start putting the time in. That's what I saw.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
So, Doctor, we have also taken a picture. So if you don't mind, could you please just stay and we're gonna make like a semicircle around you. We're gonna
Sure.
Yeah, do that. So let's do the
Straighten my
let's-
collar and try to look formal here.
You already look formal, Chris. You already look formal, Dr. Chris.
Hold on, I can make it look real.
All right. Does anybody else? Yeah. Everybody.
So, guys, what going to do is you're not going to block it.
Yeah.
Here.
It's not blocked. Yes, sir.
Not block it. So, if you, some people can sit at the.
Tall guy. In the back. You call him up to be in the. Tall guys up. I need a while to get ready. Okay, everybody's in the picture, Janice?
Yes, but Abdul will take I'm just taking the phone shot, but Abdul will take the
Okay.
commercial.
One second, guys.
You're going high tech now. He's really loading the revolver. Okay. That's a fake camera. Oh, Janice, you should come in. Yeah, please.
I vote this one.
You're not in front of the. Yeah, come forward. Yeah, otherwise you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.
Then we meet up next, right? Lunch or dinner? On me. Can you hear me?
Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna bail, Greg.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you, real quick, before you go, lunch or dinner is on me next time I meet you.
Are
Okay.
which school do you spend the most time at? Are you over there at Bay Atlantic or Marymount or both, or how's it work?
Right now I'm majority here at Bay Atlantic most of the time.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll find time. I'll link up.
Yeah, link up with me and then we'll, like I said, I'll treat you because you did me a favor here, so I at least need to treat you to lunch or dinner, yes? For your time here.
Hey, I'll settle for handshake, sir. I'll settle for handshake too.
Yeah, well, still, I rather need to treat you anyway. So we'll hook up and we'll get that done, right? For that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
No problem. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Guys, Don't forget your bag, your phones, your stuff.
So, can you ask a question?
Hello, Professor.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Are you gonna leave now or you're in your office?
No, I'm probably gonna. You go ahead out, right?